That was really ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's mass. You blink on Sunday at 3 p.m. You're probably committing a felony.
Probably.
I mean, you could just be all cheeky about it and just say not a drone on it. And so as the other things, we've been experimenting a lot with autopilots and different things like that. So eventually it might be difficult for them to even ascertain whose drone it is, where it comes from. It starts in one place and lands in another, and then just like, makes a flyover, does some filming, keeps going, disappears behind a bush, and then like someone who didn't make it take off goes and collects it, and then they just don't know.
Just put JP on it. Just put JP.
Yeah,
on it. Blame it on me.
Yeah, go hit him with a lamppost.
Well, all right, so
that leads to that story.
Yeah, let's go into that.
Oh yeah,
we have to talk about Pumpkin Fest. I was not there because I knew it was going to hit the fan most likely, so I didn't even bother. But this guy was there.
I was there in the beginning. I was there at 2 p.m. when there was some kid with blood streaming down his face walking by. I was there for the drone at like 5, and then I took off before he had the real fun.
After meeting him on the porch, introduced each other. We're like, oh, we're on the Cop Block panel together. I'm like, oh, cool. How you doing? Get on my bike. I'm coming down. I cross Gilboa Ave, cross Emerald Street, and then I'm hearing a lot of people in glass. It's still light out. I'm going by one cop, I think it was Sergeant Simons in his riot gear, putting a kid on a board, ready to put him in an ambulance. He's got blood all over his face. I pass him behind Emerald Street, right where 87 Davis is. Davis goes like this, all college houses. And then you have Blake Street and Wilson all the way to Winchester Street, all college houses on both of those streets. So the whole entire block was cordoned off. You got riot police blocking both sides of Davis, one side of Blake, the other side of Blake, the other side of Wilson. And we're talking over 100 cops blocking. So I'm on private property. I put my bag down. I'm there 2 seconds. Okay, I got the last half of that on video on Keen Cop Block Raw. I pull out my camera. This guy comes up to me. When I'm on my knees, the guy looked like he was 6'8". So
you're not that tall to begin with.
Yeah, and I'm not that tall. So this is a state cop, and he's not in riot gear. He's got his Ranger hat on. He headbutts me. Bam! His rim falls off. I'm like, I'm dazed. He's like, you're an illegal, blah, 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 blah. I turn my camera on. I'm like, I just got assaulted by this state police officer. Right on camera, he turns around and goes, I should have effing punched you. There's bottles flying by his head. That's when I made a distress call. I just got headbutted by a cop. Who comes to my aid? The first person that comes to my aid, Chris Cantwell. He comes. I got this big knot on my head, and that's just the beginning. There's a distress call from Johnson Rice. I try to make my way. I'm getting yelled at the whole time. You can't come down here. So I'm cutting through houses, carrying my bike on my back, throwing them over fences. I cut over where Gilboa Ave goes around, and I try to go around to where the pub restaurant is. That's blocked off, so I kind of went behind there, made my way through about 2,000 kids yelling USA over and over and over. Make my way finally. Pepper spray thing goes right in front of me. Boom! I'm like, great, I can't breathe. I got my eyes are tearing up. I'm still trying to say I got my shirt over my face, like coughing like crazy. I'm making my way to Johnson, and finally I met up with him, and there's like kids everywhere. And on top of that, I'm having kids that notice me, hugging me. Yo, I'm so glad you're here. They're all messed up. I got people making distress calls. I'm confused because I got headbutted. Next thing I know, bang, 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 bang. I get hit by pepper spray balls, but that wasn't until after he gave me a mini cam because my battery ran out on my camera. I'm calling Robin Hood of Keens, James Cleveland, for an extra battery. He's like, he got 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm going to get killed before then. He grabs a little cam, lets me use the little cam, so I got some footage of that. Make my way back. Another pepper spray canister blows up right near us, so we had to move all the way back into the campus. Everybody disperses. Everybody comes back, well, 1,000 strong again, yelling USA, breaking, flipping over cars, smashing windows. Bottles are flying by they're still shooting those freaking paintball things. I got welts all over my back. Now, it's getting like, I'm making the story fast. I mean, this is a span of like 2-something hours or so. So we kept running back, coming back, moving back, coming back with the crowd and trying to videotape. Well, when people started moving, when the riot police started moving all the kids back, you can hear all the chatter of the other videographers. You can hear James like, they're back near the... Everybody's yelling on the radio. Everybody's screaming. There's something going on everywhere. Next thing I know, I get a cop picking up my bike in full riot gear. It looked like a Ninja Turtle that just walked out of Fallujah. And he is revved the frig up. Get your fucking bike out of here now, blah, 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 blah. The crowd is way over there. I'm by myself. He drags me across the street, throws my bike on me, and then, believe it or not, a keen cop came to my aid. It was, I think it was Todd Lawrence, actually, Lieutenant Lawrence. No, we know JP. He's not part of it. He's just one of the Free State weirdos or whatever. So they let me go. I go across to try to get some kids smashing this big, gigantic lamppost, and then more riot police got my attention. I turn around towards them. They're like, you need to get out of here. There's a helicopter, literally not even 100 feet above us, yelling on the loudspeaker, please disperse right now. You're in a legal assembly. You will be arrested, blah, 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 blah. It literally felt like a war zone. And then while I'm concentrating on them, they started walking away. Some kids are still breaking things. This full-size lamppost hits me in the back of the head, knocks me right off my bike. I'm laying there. And got a severe concussion, headbutt, bunch of welts on my back. Somebody from FSP, a friend of ours, brought me to the ER the next day, and I was throwing up all night because of the concussion. I never want to go to a pumpkin fest ever again.
So basically what you're trying to come...
I'd rather deal with the snipers.
Basically what you're trying to say is you had a good time.
No, I didn't have a very good time.
It occurs to me that there's another microphone up there, and if we all pass one down, that we can all have a microphone? Oh, that microphone sucks? Is that the...
No, the pumpkin fest. I'm still on the pumpkin fest. I'm with PTSD.
As JP mentioned, I was also at the riots at KSC, and I was actually live streaming. What's that? KSC, not KAC. KSC, I thought I said that. Okay. So Keene State College, and I had gone there in the afternoon. I just saw a Facebook post that there were supposedly like riots at Keene State College, and I had gone down there with Johnson and Danica, and we met up with Ian there, and it appeared to me at the time, this is at like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that whatever was going on had abated, that it wasn't that big of a deal. The police were blocking off one street and apparently just trying to contain some rowdy parties or something. And then I hear about JP in Static up there later on, and we go up there, and things got considerably worse. And I got to say, it was like the craziest thing that I've ever been involved in, and I've been involved in some pretty crazy shit. I mean, I was at Zuccotti Park and Occupy Wall Street and all these different things, but the ironic thing for me is that I went down there to film the police, and I ended up being more afraid of the I almost said protesters, but that's not what they were. They really were rioting. They started flipping cars over and stuff like that.
There was a Ferguson blogger from Ferguson that said, those white hicks in New Hampshire showed everybody in Ferguson up.
Well, wow. That was
saying a lot.
I thought it was really entertaining the next day. I was looking on Twitter. Hashtag Pumpkin Fest was the #2 trend on Twitter the day after the riots, and it was hysterical to me that the liberal media tried to make this all about race, about like privileged white kids as opposed to the kids in Ferguson, that they were just dismissed as some rowdy party. And I'm like, no, they had tear gas and armored personnel carriers. It was a pretty serious situation.
They were flipping cars over.
And what's hilarious to me is that if you look at some of the like Free State Project, Cop Block, Free Keene haters, they're trying to pin the riots to us. And in fact, when we started seeing people damaging private property and stuff, of course, we went down there to film police because, hey, if there's, riots, you can imagine that police are going to get pretty heavy-handed, and that's something that you want to get on video. But what ended up happening was, when the rioters started flipping over cars and that sort of thing, we started filming them. You know, and these guys at one point threatened Jason Rapture. They surrounded him. He's got footage of it. I don't think it's on YouTube yet, but it will be pretty soon. His camera does much better low light than mine. But, you know, I got to a point that these guys were realizing, hey, we're committing felonies and these guys are filming us. You know, I don't care if you're a cop or a regular person. If you're going out and damaging private property and harming people, I'm going to record you. And at one point, these guys, they chased out ABC 7 News. At one point, they started chanting, "Fuck the press."
That lady was running. She was running.
Scared the living hell out of me, because also my camera...
In a nice dress.
My camera phone that I'm doing Ustream on doesn't do very well in low light, so not only am I recording them, I'm shining a flashlight at these guys who are, you know, roid heads who are flipping over vehicles. And... you know, right about that time, Johnson tells me that he's going to get out of there. Now, what wasn't widely publicized was I never planned to be on campus. I always carry a gun. And so I have my revolver on my hip, and I had concealed it, and I have a license to do that. And so while we're on the campus and I'm realizing these guys could turn on me at any second, I'm like, I'm going to be in a situation where if 5, you know, guys who just flipped over 2 tons of steel decide to jump on me, I might be in a situation where I might have to shoot somebody. And if I shoot somebody in this riot, it's not going to be a good situation. So I had originally asked Johnson to get rid of the gun, but the gun was loaded and he didn't have a license to do that, and I didn't think it would be a good idea to unload the weapon in front of a bunch of lunatics who might be from out of state, might never have seen a gun, and be like, hey, that looks like a fun toy to play with at the riot. And so we ended up getting out of there.
Yeah. Now...
Oh, that leads me to another question. I don't know. Do any of you guys regularly carry a gun? And if you go out cop blocking, do you carry it with you when you do that?
I'm definitely not going to carry one in the middle of that. I can tell you that right now.
Well, yeah, it's interesting to see how the demeanor changes, because one night there in Manchester, there was a heckler who was quite drunk and quite confrontational to the point where we thought he might become a physical threat. And so when I showed up, and he saw the gun on my hip, he was gone.
That's happened to me at Walmart too, where some guy was completely strung out, and I was standing behind him in line, and he was mouthing off, and then
he just sees.
Then he saw that I was carrying, and he just like shut up and
speak softly, but carry a big piece.
I'm all for people carrying, but I don't like them. I don't like the cops having them. I just don't like them.
I don't. When I'm out cop blocking, no, I normally don't carry at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually it definitely puts a different spin on things. Some cases where there might be a confrontation or an arrest.
Especially when you have a 65, 70-year-old with bald gray hair without a shirt on, carrying a revolver, walking around with you that you don't even know. That was very strange.
You know, the other problem in Keene though is that we're going to be close. We're going to be we might cut onto campus, and if you're carrying a firearm on campus, you might have some problems. And also there's some schools nearby too, and that's too much of a hassle. Luckily the middle school isn't down there anymore, but it's kind of, we might be crossing property where we might get in trouble for carrying.
Yeah, for me it's been an interesting experience, because of course when I'm cop blocking in New York, I just don't have the option of carrying at all, much less openly, you know. And to do it here, I mean, on one hand I do find that the gun will very quickly de-escalate conflicts, that people will see the weapon and say, hey, you know, maybe I don't want to screw around with this guy. And on the other hand, of course, you know, you have to be a little bit more reserved. You can't be quite as confrontational when you're carrying a weapon as when you're disarmed, of course, because if a police officer feels like you're an armed threat, then you might not go home that night.
Well, I'm a huge person against the militarization of police. I just don't feel that I need to carry one when I'm going up against that. It's kind of like I don't know, double
when you're kind
standard.
of outgunned at that point.
Yeah,
if you were to get in a situation.
I don't think a 9mm is going to work with a SWAT team with 5.56 M4s.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the situation. If it's a high confrontation zone, I would never ever carry in that kind of thing. If it's just a simple, I'm about my business filming, or just holding a sign, or just something where there's probably not going to be any trouble or even interaction with the police,